The day of the conference came and only 400 people walked through the doors. Now, a lot of people would sit there and say, 400 is great. I mean, it's your very first conference, but not when you had told everyone that you're going to have 1,500.
Yeah.
And I just felt defeated. I felt embarrassed. I felt like, why did you ask me to do this? And this is all that came. And then I just got that prompting again that said, Liz, don't mourn the 1,100 that didn't come, but celebrate the 400 that did.
Welcome to Pebbles of Light, where we highlight the everyday people who bring hope, comfort, and light to others. I'm your host, Maxson, sharing meaningful stories to help you find light in your journey. If the messages shared resonate with you, please follow, share, or support the podcast through Patreon to help keep the mic on and spread the light even farther. Welcome to Pebbles of Light. Last week with Alan Lazarus of Next Level University, we talked about the buckets of life related to fulfillment and success. The pebble of that episode invited us to ask, where am I at in regards to fulfillment and success? And what's my next step to move forward? Today, we talk with Liz Watt, someone who chose growth when quitting would have been easier. Today's guest, Liz Watt, walks with people through burnout, leadership pressure, and the quiet ache of doing too much for too long. As an author, speaker, and co-founder of Be Healthy Utah, she helps us see that real success isn't about pushing harder. It's about becoming whole. Liz, thanks so much for being here. Please take a moment to introduce yourself.
Yeah, I'm Liz Watt. I'm in Utah, around the Salt Lake area, and I run Be Healthy Utah. It's the largest natural health conference, basically almost in the West, where we gather thousands of people every year, and we just created a platform where people can come and learn all about natural health and how to take care of themselves.
Awesome. Can you share a little bit about how Be Healthy Utah came to be? You've got quite a story of how, these personal experiences led to this desire to do more and learn more. And then, wait, I can share what I've learned with others. And there's maybe some opportunities there.
It is kind of funny how our greatest trials we go through are some of our best learning experiences and also our best way that we can bless and serve others. But I would say probably after my second child, my husband was a chiropractor. We lived a holistic natural lifestyle. Well, after I started having my second child, I started to notice that I was getting these inflammation episodes that were happening within my body. And by the time I had my sixth child, had gotten so bad that I had numbness all over my back. My joints were inflamed all the time. And there were some days that I ended up in a wheelchair because there was just no way that I could even function. And so I had I just kept on reaching out, trying to figure out, and going through the natural route of what can I do? And we came to, my husband would always say, how come I can help everybody else's wife, but not my own? And it was so true, is because everything he did just made it worse. When I had one of my episodes of my inflammation episodes, I went to a doctor and they're sending me in for MRIs. They're doing these exams, they're doing these blood work, and they're like, we don't know what is going on with you. And so now it just seemed like I was stuck. Like, this is just how I'm going to be for the rest of my life. And I just had this prompting that just said, Liz, I need you to learn a new trait to help and serve others, but you first have to heal yourself. And I just sat there and like, what do you mean heal myself? Because I have been trying to heal for a long time. And at that moment, I realized that I had been searching in the wrong direction. And I was asking everybody else, what can I do? What should I do? What can help me? And well, anyways, I needed to finally ask the question of what does my body need to heal? So I did that every single day as I just got into a meditated state, and I'd be like, okay, what can I do today to help my body heal? And just every day I started to implement something that would create a positive change within my body. And after 4 months, my body totally restored. My numbness was gone. My joint pain, it had almost diminished. My pH had balanced. Before I was allergic to metals, I could finally wear my earrings, and my eyes never I no longer had to wear glasses anymore because my eyes improved. And so it just was like a huge shift that had happened to me, a huge miracle. And so I started to see clients. I started teaching them these principles that I had and of, this health and how we can change our health. But then it was like that same feeling just came to me that, Liz, it's not all about the food that you eat. It's the emotional aspects too of your health. And, all of us have grown up in different types of circumstances, different things affect different people. And I had grown up in a situation that I felt a lot of shame and just didn't feel like I belonged. And so I suppressed a lot of that stuff. And all of a sudden, as I started to realize that these emotional things that I had gone through in my life and suppressing them has to manifest somehow. And it ended up manifesting in my health. And so I went through these emotional aspects of my life to get peace with them, to find, realizing that everyone is growing and that, yeah, maybe somebody didn't treat me well, but you know what? They're also growing now and they've were probably not treated well also, and just go through the whole chain of the emotional aspects and then finding the peace within myself that it's okay and you are loved and that people do love you and that you're going to be all right. And so then after I went through that aspect, then I went to, as I was seeing clients, I just saw that how people's, they weren't wanting to keep these permanent changes. And it all starts within our brains because our brains are our biggest advocate, but yet the biggest thing that keeps us back too. And so, how do we change our brains? And I started to incorporate these different ways of how we can find lasting change by changing the neural pathways within our brains. And then I came to the aspect that the way that you find the real change is to find the greater purpose within you. Why is it that I needed to be healthy? Why is it that I needed to have a body that could do things? And that was because I was sent here to be able to bless and serve others. And if I show up with a body like this that can't, that's in a wheelchair, that's inflamed, then I can barely even take care of my own kids. I can't help other people. And so that's what was like my main goal, is realizing that I was created for more and to realize that I have a lot of stuff within me that needs to be shared with others. My husband and I, we went and spoke at a conference on gut health and the microbiome. He had changed a lot of his practice over to helping with functional health, which is like diabetes, thyroid, peripheral neuropathy, just all of these functions that really the root cause is your gut health. And as we were talking about this, it's just everyone was so interested in what we had to say. I had wrote a book for that conference and I brought 200 copies of my book and we ended up selling every single one of them because people were so interested in what we needed to say. A few weeks after that, after that conference, we came home and I ended up having this dream that I was standing in front of thousands of people because we put on a natural health conference. And when I woke up in the morning, I just sat there and I thought about there's all of these people out there that were struggling like I was. And I didn't know where to get help. I had tried searching through the natural remedies. I tried to go through the medical doctors. I tried all of this and I was stuck. But what if I could find these experts out there that know about functional health, that know where to find these answers at? What if I created this platform that people could come and to learn? Then they wouldn't go through the 20 years that I did of suffering so much. But as I started to think about it, it was like, we have these great ideas and these things we want to do in our life. And then the reality starts to hit in. And I was like, oh no, that's too big for me. I can't do something like that. Like I need that is not me. But then it just seemed like the late as the day went on, it was just like those feelings and those promptings of my heart was just beating, palpating really quickly like, "No, you need to do this. You are called to do this." And so later on, I just blurted out to my husband and said, "I had a dream. We're supposed to put on a natural health conference." And he was not on board with it, but I told him, "We need to do this. This is something that I know that we need to do," and somehow put a spark in him, and we started to search out, and that's how Be Healthy Utah came about. So there was a lot that went into it, a lot of growth, a lot of learning. But that is, we create these things in our life because some of the hardest experiences that we've been through.
Yeah. And those can be, yeah, the greatest lessons and teachers and opportunities to share our wisdom with others so that they don't have to search so hard. Like you said, that it helps them to be able to not go through all the hurdles that you went through in order to get the answers that you found. So since you were inspired to do this, it was an overnight success, right? Like immediately there was tens of
Oh,
thousands of
there
people,
was
right?
not. That was like, no. So we had never had done this before in our lives. And when you try something new, there's a lot of failure and there's a little bit of success. And we had told the first thing we did was to find a venue, and we went to one of it's called the Salt Palace. It's in Salt Lake. It's one of the biggest convention centers because we figured, hey, if you're going to put it on an event, that's where you want to have it, right? And so we went there and we got the place, and it was expensive, but we're like, okay, this is if we're going to have, we wanted to have 1,500 people come to our conference. And when we're searching out for these vendors, we didn't even though we're in the natural health, if you unless you really search out a lot of people, you don't know where these doctors are out there. You might know a couple, but you don't know the majority of people. You don't know these mom and pop places that are making these herbs in their kitchen and selling it, like and so you have to really do a lot of work of searching out these people, and we kept on telling them, "We're gonna have 15 our goal is to have 1,500 people there. That is what we're searching for." All of our bags that we bought 1,500, all of our like all the swag bag stuff, we got 1,500, and when we set up all of our chairs in the Salt Palace, we had set it up for 1,500 people, like, we were just this is what we're gonna do, and if you visualize it, it's going to come, right? That's what I'm like and also, I knew that this conference wasn't from me, that I felt like it was divinely inspired, and so if we just continue on this path, then we're going to get there. It was 6 weeks before the conference, and before our name was called Elevated Learning, and we weren't selling tickets because we just thought, we called it Elevated Learning, Natural Health and Wellness Conference. Well, anyways, people didn't know what elevated learning meant. They thought that it was maybe schooling and you are just getting, learning more in school, whatever. And somebody reached out and they just said, "We just don't know what elevated learning means. Like, what does that actually mean?" And, sometimes it takes these outside people to come in to make you realize that, "Oh, okay, there's something we need to change here." They see the spots and things that you don't. And then all of a sudden, my husband was just searching on the internet one day and just was putting in different names, and he put in Be Healthy Utah, and he saw that the URL was available. And so 6 weeks before the conference, we changed the whole name. We changed our logo. We changed, just everything that we had to go get a new business name. We changed everything so that now we could be known as Be Healthy Utah. And and then it was we had to go pay our final payment. It was like 3 weeks before the conference. We had sold I think at that time, we had only sold like 147 tickets, far off than the 1,500. Conference is coming
10%.
up. Yeah, the conference is coming up. We had to go pay our final payment to the Salt Palace. We get up there and I was like, "Oh, I accidentally left the check in the car." I go down to the parking the parking garage to get it. I get out the check, and all of a sudden, I just like fall to the ground because I was so stressed at that moment. Here I was going to have to pay the last payment that we had, and we only have 147 people. All of these vendors that we had collected money from are they're gonna come and there's not gonna be anybody there. What about these speakers? Some of these speakers, we were please, we really want to do this and we're gonna have a crowd there for you. And there's gonna be what? How many people showing up there? And as I just sat there, I just had tears in my eyes. I was just crying. I was just at that moment, I wanted to just walk out of that parking garage and never come back. I did not want to it got to the point, it's like, do I really even want to be here, because you get so much stress on you that you do want to just click your fingers and disappear. But as I sat there, I just realized that I have 2 options. I could walk out of there and just disappear, or or else I can just stand up, brush myself off, realize it is what it is, and just walk forward. So I wipe the tears from my face, go inside. My husband's like, "Are you okay?" I'm like, "No, I'm not okay, but it's going to be okay." And we paid them. And every morning I just woke up and I got back into that meditative state, like I said before. And I just was like, what are 3 things that I can do today to help the conference better? What are 3 things that I could do? And so I just concentrated on those 3 things that day. And yes, there was probably a lot more stuff I could do, but if I could just do those 3 things. And so the day of the conference came and only 400 people walked through the doors. Now, a lot of people would sit there and say, 400 is great. I mean, it's your very first conference, but not when you had told everyone that you're going to have 1,500. And when the speakers got up, there was 1,500 chairs out there in the main thing. And there's only not even everyone's going to be, even if 400 people walk through those doors, there's probably only like 50 people listening to the speakers.
Yeah.
And I just felt defeated. I felt embarrassed. I felt like, why did you ask me to do this? And this is all that came. And then I just got that prompting again that said, Liz, don't mourn the 1,100 that didn't come, but celebrate the 400 that did. And then there was like a shift in my brain. And all of a sudden, it was like I wasn't worried about the vendors anymore because people were still coming to their booths. I wasn't worried about the speakers anymore because guess what? They never had a platform before to be able to come and teach like they have right now.
Yeah.
And then the people kept on coming up to me saying, "Thank you so much for doing this. This is the best thing we've ever done. And I've learned so much." They just kept on coming up to me. And at the end, these vendors that put in their hard earned money, they were up there saying, "You know what? We know that this was not busy, but we had the best conference. The people that came, the people that you brought actually wanted to buy from us." And yeah, it wasn't that busy, but they were interested in what we had to say because you brought the right people and you need to keep on going. You need to keep on going. And so I think that sometimes we have those little sparks of light that come to us in the hardest times when we're doing something to give us those experiences to say, you need to keep on going.
Yeah.
So we did. We kept on going.
And now, where are we at now?
So I would love to say that after that conference, everything ended up to be perfect, but it didn't because our very first conference was in 2019. We started planning it in 2018. First conference was in 2019, and we all know what happened in 2020. It was 6 weeks before our conference, and we were in the office of the place that we were having it at. and they canceled it. They got the call while we were there trying to figure out what we're gonna do, and they said, "Because sorry, we're canceling all conferences because of COVID, we're canceling everything." And at this point, we had found some different sponsors, and we had a huge lineup of our vendors by this time. Our very first conference, we had 40 vendors, and now we were about 100 vendors. And so we had these vendors, we had speakers. I mean, it's 6 weeks before the conference. You are trying to get things going here. And it was canceled. But then we're like, okay, we're going to try in June. Well, that conference was canceled. Okay, now we're going to try in August. Okay, that conference is canceled. And then I thought, okay, we have been holding these people on for a long time. Our vendors, our sponsors, our speakers, it's going to fall apart if we don't do something. And so I just came up with the idea we are going to do an online summit. And I never had done this before in my life, but I reached out to speakers and interactive classes and food demonstration people. I'm like, hey, can you video this? And we are going to do a 5-day Be Healthy Utah Health Summit. And we're just going to do it all online. And I never had done it before, but I did it. And I was like, "Okay, at least we did something." And then it was, "Well, okay, we're gonna do this again in April." We're like, "Okay, we're just gonna go far away, and we're gonna do it in April." Well, all of a sudden, April comes, and now they decide that they are going to use that facility as a COVID facility, and that they had to cancel all the conferences. We had 3 conferences canceled. And so at that moment, we just decided, okay, we are going to do it a whole year later. We just cannot be canceling all these conferences. Let's just go out the next year. And January hit. And so now this is, 4 months before when we're going to have the conference. And my husband was like, we are done. Like, we have strung this on for too long. I am spent. All of our people, like, let's just give them back their money because who knows if we can even do the conference in April again. Things are crazy. People are trying to just hold on for dear life. Even if we had to go take out a loan, whatever, let's just give people back their money, just call it our losses and walk away. And that night I went to bed and I just had the biggest feeling in my stomach because it was like I was the one that had this dream. I knew that we were supposed to do this. And when I was standing in front of people, that day, I wasn't standing in front of thousands of people. So I knew that it needed to be something bigger than that. And yes, we did do the first one, but I just knew that we were supposed to do it. And then I just was like, I need to have a sign. Like, I really need to have a sign to let me know that we need to continue because I can't do this without my husband. And my husband is done. Like, he does not want it. It's too stressful. And how can you blame somebody like this when we have been held on for this long? And so I ended up getting this strong impression no, you need to continue. You need to do this. And so I just told my husband, I know you don't want to do this, but we have to. Well, it was the day of the conference and we needed to go onto the main stage because there was some things that weren't working with the audio visual stuff. And we had volunteers there. We're like, just start signing people in and we're going to go take care of this problem. Well, it took us about a half an hour. Speakers were going to be starting in an hour. So we're in there trying to figure this out. And all of a sudden, my husband walks out and then comes running back in. And he's like, you have to come and see this. Well, he comes and gets me. And then he takes me to each of the aisles. And he's like, look at all of these people that are here. Every aisle was full of people. And, we had 100 vendors. And so it was like all of these aisles were just full. And that day, we ended up having 2,200 people come to that conference,
Wow.
which was a huge jump from 400 to 2,200. But during that time was such an emotional roller coaster. And it's like so many times we wanted to quit and give up. But it's like also we had those little lights those little, little lights along the way that just was like, keep on going, keep on going, keep on going. And now we have 3,500 people that come to the Sandy conference. We had 1,100 people come to the St. George conference, which is in the southern part of Utah, and it's just growing. And this year we're hoping to get 5,000 at the Sandy conference. And it's because we never gave up and we kept on the mission of what it is, because sometimes things just don't come easy, but they come in the way that you need to. And the thing is that very first conference, if we would have had 1,500 people come, we wouldn't have known how to run the conference exactly the way that it needs to be. And that's one of the biggest thing that people tell us is they love the way that our conference runs because it is very organized and people know what they need to do, how to do it. We take really good care of our vendors that come. We make them feel like that they are that their product is just is important and they're not just a number. And we did that because when we were going through the process, we know the struggle that it was for us, and we knew how important every single vendor was, and we searched out every single vendor, and we made them feel this way. And so we wouldn't have been able to have the closeness of what Be Healthy Utah is if we wouldn't have gone through the process of it.
So, how has your definition of success changed from, let's say, 2017, almost 10 years ago, 10 years ago till now?
Before I used to, like I said, getting in the numbers, right? It's the 1,500. Oh, we're getting in that. That's what success was to me. But now success is talking about the one. It's about seeing the vendor that is there that is trying to make a difference where they do all of their stuff in the kitchen and realizing that they needed to have a platform to be able to share what they have that can change people too. And when we focus on that one vendor, and then this is another vendor, and creating a place for them that they can share, that's truly what success is to us right now. And if we just create that good conference where we have the right people that come, not just the numbers, but the right people that are going to come to be able to purchase from that one person, that is really where we find success. And it's not about just keep on going and keep on going and keep on going, but it's about nurturing yourself along the way too. Because I'm not going to be able to run a conference if I am frantic and crying and out of control. But my husband and I have to get to a place where we feel that every moment that we have to take, like I talked about before we got on this podcast today, we went and worked out, we have to take that time for ourselves to be able to slow down and to really concentrate on the things that are going to get us to the next level. And so working out with us every single morning together, that is something that helps us. And we do a lot of educational things and we do it together because that's what brings success to us is when we are building this together and intentionally. Because it before is about the numbers, but now it's about intention and showing up. This is what I call whole self leadership, is where we show up as our whole self. And so that we can run that conference as our whole self. And then what does that do? That makes him showing up at his practice, being his whole self. I'm showing up then as my mom, as a mom, being my whole self. I am showing up in all the different areas of my life as being intentional and showing up in whole of the person that I need to be so that I can bless other people in many different ways.
And I love what you'd said about the idea of don't mourn the 1,100 that didn't come, but be so grateful and celebrate the 400 who did come. And that idea of, kind of ministering to the one and knowing that each one of those people who was there, you had an impact on them. as well as the idea of kind of faith in the effort and not in the outcome, and all of the things that you learned, as you said, is just from the logistics of running a conference to just other things that you've learned about yourself and the importance of perseverance and resilience in the face of adversity and hurdles that you have to overcome in order to do those things that you feel inspired and directed to do. And that can be a difficult thing. I know for me in entrepreneurial experiences where it's been really hard, where I feel inspired to do something, but it's definitely not the easy way. And we see examples of that all over the place. But the importance of sticking to it even when it's hard. I had a friend who used the phrase, if the Lord brings you to it, the Lord brings you through it. And so sometimes if you're brought to something difficult, you can know that you can rely on that. But sometimes it does feel a little bit lonely and it requires a lot of persistence to stick to it. So,
Well, I often sit there and I think about, okay, I go back to that very first dream that I had, and I was standing in front of thousands of people. That very first conference, I was standing in front of probably 50, and now I'm standing in front of hundreds, but I have not been standing in front of thousands yet. And so I keep on going back to that dream saying, there's still more for me to do. He's still using me to create a bigger movement than what I know. And if I was to give up right now, then I haven't created what I'm supposed to yet. I still need to be in front of those thousands of people. And I'm not there yet, so I need to keep on going.
yeah, as far as sustainability and making sure that you're able to do that, one thing that I hear about is the idea of like being busy versus being productive versus being aligned with your personal mission. How do you find balance? I don't know. I feel like balance isn't really a thing that happens. We're always just going from one thing to another. But how do you find the ability to make sure that you are aligned and productive and not just quote unquote busy?
Well, I created this Thrive framework, and it stands for, so I'll go through just really quickly the letters. And it stands for T is team or your tribe. H is your health. R is resilience. I is invest in growth. V is value people, and E is elevate. So when this thrive, if we incorporate all of these things that I talked about, let's just say the T, team, you have to create a team around you. We are not here meant to walk alone, but we come in a tribe of people, a team of people, and we should carry that within our businesses too, whatever we're doing. We have to create that team around us. When we started Be Healthy Utah, like I said, we didn't know what we were doing. And there was somebody that was in our neighborhood that was the CEO of USANA. He had put on lots of conferences. And so we just said, hey, can we take 30 minutes of your time? Just let you know what we're doing and see if you can give us any advice. Well, we went and met him in his office, the CEO office there, going through tight security to get to his office. And we just sat down. We told him what we wanted to do. Afterwards, he says, I need you to change a couple of these things here, but I want to sponsor you and I want to give you a $5,000 check to sponsor you. People are put in our path to help us along the way. He was part of our team. He gave us guidance, and he might not be officially on our team, but we can create that team around us to help us get us to that next step. That $5,000 helped us be able to secure a place where we needed to have it, just to be able to start out the few things that we needed to have before we could even get vendors on. And then we took that sponsorship and we were able to find another sponsorship because they trusted USANA so much. And then all of a sudden it's like, okay, now we have this other team. And then as I was going along with this, I had to learn how to do a lot of stuff. And it was becoming so overwhelming because now the conferences are getting bigger. I'm doing all the back end stuff. I'm doing the website, the marketing, the onboarding. I'm doing all of this back end stuff. And it's getting so overwhelming for me. And so I just said, okay, if I want to grow, then I need to find a social marketing people and I need to find a team that's around me that can help me do this because I can't do this. Well, I ended up finding a social marketing person and then I ended up getting a group of virtual assistants. And I had been searching for some virtual assistants, but I couldn't really afford like the high ticket value. But I ended up finding this group of ladies that have helped me. And where's your team at? You have to find a team. We sometimes hold ourselves back the most because we can't take that leap of finding a team to help us. And that doesn't have to be the team that's on your payroll. It can be some of your biggest supporters too that help you along the way. And so, where is that team? Your health. I already talked about that. What is, if our health, there's no way I could have done what I'm doing right now. I'm doing a conference, I'm doing public speaking, I'm doing podcasting, I wrote a book. There's just a lot of stuff that I'm doing, and there is no way that I could be doing all that stuff without my help. And so if we go down each of these things, team, health, resilience, invest in growth, value people, and elevate, this is how we become aligned. This is how we get out of the busyness and to become intentional exactly what we're doing. Because really, at the end of the day, it's about how we serve and how we can bless and serve other people. And that is how you get out of the busyness of, the best way that we can become aligned with what we're doing now is not about all of this busy work that kept me so busy, but it's about creating a platform where where these vendors, where these speakers can now come and teach other people. And that's where I need to focus on. And that's where I could become the most aligned of what I'm doing in my life.
Those are awesome insights. Thank you. And I love the acronym. That really helps kind of just put everything all together and think about, okay, it's just personally, you can take a moment to just kind of go through those and kind of determine where you're at and where you can improve. And that's a really kind of cool way to be able to self-assess, make sure you're not just stuck in the busy, but being productive and being aligned with what you're meant to do. So the last question on this podcast is always the same, and you've kind of answered it in regards to business, but I'd love from a personal level. So the purpose of Pebbles of Light podcast is to help celebrate those who've placed a pebble of light in our path to guide us on our way, and as well as helping people recognize how they can do that for others. But could you share about one or two people who've placed a pebble of light in your path?
I have a group of friends, and I always say that they're one in a million because I have these different groups, different friends throughout my life, and I call them my one in a million because it's like out of a million people, you only find one of them. And I'm so blessed to have so many of them in my life that really that to have that many one in a million friends is such a blessing. But I would have to say that the person that is that pebble of light for me is actually my husband because he believed in my dream. He believed in the purpose that I feel that was divinely inspired for us to do. And if you don't have that person that's right there with you that believes in you, then you can't really accomplish everything that you want because like I said, we don't come here alone. And even though people will say, I did this by myself, guess what? You didn't. There's a lot of people that helped you along that way. And my husband believed in my dream. He believed that there was something more here. And he had to believe in me like that, okay, she got that. She knows that we're supposed to do this. And that other time when he wanted to cancel the conference and I was like, no, we have to keep on doing it. He still believed in me even though we had gone through so much. And now it's like I could not do this without him. And so he is that light that I have to be able to continue this process so that now we can create a platform that so many people's lives are changing. And I just got a text message the other day that just said, you don't understand how you are changing people's lives and don't quit. Keep on going because you will never know the impact that you are creating in other people's lives. And so that pebble of light is my husband because he believed in me.
Thank you. My husband also, I've gone to him and said, "Hey, I have this idea and it's kind of outlandish." And I think he's gonna think, "Okay, that's wacky. We're not doing that." But he's always just been so supportive and said, "Okay, go ahead. We'll figure out how to do it." And it's been so important to have that support by my side.
Yeah.
Liz, thanks so much for being here. Please just share, some information about where people can find out more about you when they're
They
interested.
can find me on behealthyutah.com. I do have a free book on there that you can download: Healthy Gut, Healthy Mind, Healthy Life, A Healthy Approach to the Microbiome. And then if you want to know more about my speaking, my author, and stuff like that, you can go to elizabethannwatt.com, and you can find all about my speaking, what kind of speaking that I do, and then also my books that I have published.
Awesome. And I'll make sure link all those in the show notes so people can go and check them out.
Yeah, thank you for having me on.
Yeah, you're welcome. Liz's journey reminds us that success isn't about numbers. It's about intention. It's about not mourning the 1,100 people who didn't come, but celebrating the 400 people who did. The pebble for this episode is to take time to choose one person to intentionally encourage. Send them a text, give them a call, and express gratitude. Focus on ministering to the one. You can learn more about Liz and her work in the show notes. Be sure to also check out ways to support Pebbles of Light through Patreon and Buzzsprout. As always, thanks so much for being part of this community. Thank you for tuning in. My hope is that something helped you feel seen, encouraged, or inspired to bring light to someone else. If a name or moment stood out, don't let it pass. Reach out, express gratitude, or take that next step. You can connect with me anytime on socials at Pebbles of Light or at maxson.com. If this episode was meaningful for you, please follow the show, rate or review, and share it with someone who might need a lift today. And if you want to go a step farther, you can support the show on Patreon. See you next time.